Hi, I'm Zac Hug, and I am a television writer, and I am a UBC alumni. I started in digital media working for Bravo. I wrote a lot of web content. If anyone can think of a name for what content is and that is not content, taken all votes. I made a lot of things for the internet, and that was fun. I studied playwriting as an undergrad, and I always wanted to write television, and about 4 years ago, I got the opportunity to leave my job at the Walt Disney Company and become a full-time freelancer and television writer. I wrote on a show called Drop Dead Diva for a while. I now freelance a lot of copy and a lot of digital copy, and I produce a web series that I write and am in called These People, and I just make stuff now, which is sort of fun. For me, the passion that I have for film scripts, for scripted writing, is that I like the way that people talk to each other. I think there's so much revealed about the human condition in dialogue, and there's so much revealed about characters who have a hard time expressing themselves or an easy time expressing themselves. And I think that scripting, all of the story takes place in what we say and in how we say it, and in how all of the action is in a lot of ways explained by dialogue. And that's a way that I've always really appreciated accessing the world. And so the more that we can get characters to sort of speak like the rest of us and to focus on the dialogue, I get thrilled by. I like characters who are their own worst enemy. I like heroes. I think that we're all supposed to believe right now that Walter White or the anti-hero, that we're supposed to look up to that. And to me, that feels like a really dangerous way of justifying being an asshole. And to me, I'm interested in people who have a stake in the world that is not about their financial success or about I don't believe that their stake should be about saving themselves. I like the idea that we can believe in a character who wants to create a good in the world, and that in and of itself is a stake on its own. So I like characters who have no sense of that and figure that out, which sounds sort of churchy in a weird way, which I don't view it that way, but I do like when characters end optimistically rather than, well, that's how it had to end for that guy. Like, that makes me pretty sad. And there's a lot of it, and I think it's defeatist in a lot of ways to praise that so much. I think the trend about the anti-hero is really about looking at a world in which a lot of us are starting to we're watching a world go dark in a lot of ways. And I think that we're looking for ways to justify our survival in ways we might not be comfortable with. And I think that there is going to be, I think we'll see more stories about that. I do think that, as with any kind of television or scripted writing, we go through phases where we get tired of it, and we do just want someone to come along. There's a lot of great superhero movies, but they're all anti-heroes now too in a lot of ways. They're all very deeply flawed. But I think that we do sort of come out of anti-hero, and we've been here before, I think, with characters, but I think we do come back to hero at some point. I don't know that we're there yet, but I think it's certainly worth writing about now. That to face the darkness with a sense of light makes more sense to me than to keep justifying more darkness to beget, or more darkness as a solution. Yes, I have written plays. I started as an actor in my undergrad. I went to NYU, and I went to the Playwrights Horizons Theater School program, and I learned to write, actually, from the inside. I was part of a devised theater program where we were assigned to write the play from the inside out, where we had to create all the characters on ourselves, figure out who they were, how they talked, then bring actors in and design it on them, and we didn't write it down until it was performed. So that was a great, it's still a great way to work. So advice I'd give to people who are looking to to work with digital content is certainly to just make things. I think that the internet, the nice part about it is that we are all our own media platforms. We are all our own television networks. We are all our own novels. And there's a way to tell a story about yourself online that is really easy to brand and also to make work that means something to you, but is also could mean something to someone else. And to just put it live, it doesn't matter if it has a huge amount of discovery. It's a great way to pitch yourself as a voice and a writer that can work on just about anything. I think the actual skill of writing for digital is a thing that everyone sort of, it's easy to do, but it's hard to do well. And I think the more you practice it and the more that you learn about kind of the marketplace is looking for, and by that a lot of the money that it is in digital is, a lot of it is commercial, and let's not knock anything. I mean, we all like to get paid, but I think looking at what those things are, we all interact with the internet in some way. The things that we're drawn to are probably good places to start pitching your work to, because you're already naturally into it, and more digital is about how we relate to on a very human level, and the more companies and brands start to get behind that, or have gotten behind that, the more that it's easy for a real solid person to just come in and say, I'm a fan, I am interested in this, let me help you do it, and they'll pay for that. That turns out to be pretty easy. The web series came out of the idea that as creative people, we're always told, well, just make something. And for a lot of people, and for me for a long time, that was really overwhelming, because your first thought is, do I have to do a Kickstarter? Like, you get very freaked out by how to do it and all that stuff. It turns out we all know people who are looking to do the same thing. And I think that it's a great community building kind of activity in a real camp sort of way. But I had a friend who had a camera and no scripts. He was looking for someone with scripts, and I could no more pick up a camera and make something that polished than I could fly to the moon. So finding someone who is looking for that as much as you are, chances are you know that person. And then to ask your friends, who then ask their friends, who then ask their friends, and all of a sudden you end up with some really interesting work that comes out of it. I think it also, the more you can let people bring to the table what they want to bring to the table, we get actors with sort of name and face recognition, mainly because we say, what do you want to do? Which then is actually a fun assignment to work with as a writer. Jeremy Glazer, who plays my boyfriend, I asked him what he wanted to do on camera, and he said, I don't know why I want to play tennis. And I said, great. And there's an entire episode of tennis with a bunch of fun people. And that came out of the fact that actors need things for their reels, writers want to explore interesting things, and people with cameras want to, let's try to do it in slow motion. And the more you can sort of collaborate on those things, I think the stronger it becomes. If you are going to spend any money on a web series, spend it on publicity, spend it on marketing, spend it on getting eyeballs to it, and make sure that you're proud of it before you spend that money on it, I think is the key to it. You have to just try the stuff, because otherwise you get years and years and years go by, and it's like, well, I've written all the things, I guess these will be discovered when I'm dead. And there's just a moment of like, I want to make something, everybody get out of the way. And then the shocking part is that it's 1,000 times easier than it is. I always say that it's like when you first move out of the house and you have to find an apartment and turn your gas on and get a phone and do all those things. No one tells you, people tell you how to do it, but you have to go and do it yourself. And I think that it's actually just as easy as those things, and it's just as hard as those things, but you don't know that you can do it until you start doing it. And once you do, you're like, oh, well, here's how you make a web series. I feel like I went into writing as a profession so that I could one day teach it. I think that I enjoy the teaching work that I've done that's albeit brief, and usually like a one-day workshop or two. But to me, there's really something about watching someone grasp a concept that is, I've had the moment so often of myself where I've been sitting in a class, and very specifically, I remember Nancy explaining to us third acts in fiction, and I heard all those words. I knew those words all made sense in sequence. And then going about it another way, a different explanation, trying it myself, watching it happen, and then there was a day where it clicked, and I thought, that's a thing to help people figure out. And because now it feels very second nature to me, and it feels like something I know how to do, and I'm not scared of writing as much as I once was, or writing the ending isn't so daunting to me. And so absolutely, I want to teach it. I think as a sort of, I want to keep making and teaching, and I think teaching is a great way to do that, actually, because I've learned so much from the things I've tried to explain to people. I recommend master's programs to pretty much anyone. Someone told me the other day that I had already had a few credits before I started the program, and they were confused as to why I still went through it. And for me, I didn't do it as a career move. I did it as there were things about my own writing that I wasn't confident about, and there were things that I knew that I couldn't learn on my own, or I could. It was just going to take me a much longer time, and so I also knew that that would probably multi-genre. I knew very specifically, and the reason that I came to UBC specifically was that I knew that if I just stayed in scripted, I knew that if I didn't try creative nonfiction and other things, I would probably just spin in that churn for a long time. And we all know, I mean, the creative nonfiction made the work a lot more honest. There's a lot of things that breaking out of your own genre can teach you, and I think that's why there's so much value in a workshop structure that's is particularly like optional residency, that you are constantly, no matter what you're doing, and especially as a working professional, you are constantly honing a skill while you're doing it in practice, and it's shockingly helpful. I feel an entirely different writer than I was when I went in. The thing that I would say, generally, about the program and about the time that I've spent in it is I came to really enjoy what having a community of writers was about in a way that you don't choose them. That what comes to the table in a workshop setting like this, and in this program specifically, is you encounter fiction writers who teach you things about story structure that you never would have ever gotten to as just a scriptwriter. You encounter poetry in a way that becomes so much more about word choice than you thought that it would. And it's not your friend who's a poet who's going to be nice to you about it. It's someone who's going to just tell you exactly the feedback that they have. That so many smart people have been so generous with feedback towards the work that I've done, and they're all from different walks of life and from around the world. I think that was really eye-opening to me, to be able to be helpful about certain things and to sort of feel that give and take the whole time. That was great. I really I enjoyed this enormously. I'm bummed that it took as short of a period of time that it did, actually. But I'll be back.
You'll be back.